Hi, everybody. Tim O'Neill, as hopefully you know, is that we are excited because we've had a great chance to hook up with Humanscale. And especially now with these times and people working from home, sort of on a hybrid, sort of permanently and everything else, we thought it would be great since Humanscale has a phenomenal team that does, everything from products to also consulting, that we would bring out two of the experts with Pasquale and Josh and let them sort of give you a little hints as far as what to look for, what to tell your people, and how to sort of guide them to have an ergonomic office at their house. Because we know that there's going to be a lot of issues with some of you'll see some pictures in here that, may look a little far-fetched, but they're actual pictures of what people had used to work at home. And with that, I'll turn it over to those guys and let them run with it.
Well, first of all, I just want to thank Tim and Amber for setting this up today. We're really excited to be a part of this presentation. We have a lot of interesting information and some cool tips and tricks to share with you guys. But first and foremost, my name is Pasquale Capocci. I am the local A&D rep for Humanscale, and I cover the whole state of Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and Delaware. So I'm out in the Pittsburgh market a lot during the year. So if you guys ever need anything, feel free to reach out to me and maybe we can meet in person one day. And just as a reminder with Humanscale, who we are and what we cover, Humanscale is an ergonomics manufacturer. So we have a wide variety of seating options, which includes task seating, ancillary options, side seating. We have a bunch of different technology tools, height adjustable options, wire management tools, and the list goes on. So if you have any questions at the end of the presentation, maybe I can provide my information either in the chat or you can get it from Tim and Amber. We'd be happy to help you with anything you need. And with that, we can get started and I will hand off the presentation to Josh.
Excellent. Thanks, Pasquale. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Josh Bancic, and somewhat different than Pasquale, where he's focused more on our product side. My role on the consulting team at Humanscale is really on assisting organizations with developing ergonomic programs. And what I want to talk to all of you about today, as Tim mentioned, was the unpleasant truth. All good?
All good.
Okay. The unpleasant truth and what to do about it. It's coming up on 2 years, which is almost unimaginable that we've been in some type of work from home, hybrid environment. And I have seen a number of scenarios that you just would shake your head at. And so for the discussion topics over the next 20 or 25 minutes, a few things I want to raise, get a conversation going. And as we close out the presentation, if there's questions or we want to chat further, more than happy to answer anything that you're interested in. So to get started, how has work changed and what does that mean for organizations as well as employees? And something that I'm finding is that employees themselves are becoming much better educated at what they need. We initially went home in March of 2020 with our laptop and we hoped for the best, sitting at a kitchen table and a variety of other areas. But as employees become more educated, their expectations, I think, are now raised. So as we do return to the office in some form, organizations are going to, I think, see a lot more requests to reflect that. Going back to my point about the poor ergonomics that people have been working in, that's finally starting to kind of rear its ugly head. And people are having, legitimate diagnosis and issues related to their home office setup. And it's really affecting just the simple well-being and comfort of many, many people. So I'll give some very quick tips of how to remedy that today, but also explore some longer term solutions we should be focused on. And that brings me to why should we be investing in ergonomic tools, either as individuals or as organizations? What is the real benefit of investing in these tools? And yes, we want our employees to be productive. We want them to be healthy and comfortable, but it also can act as a way of retention. We've seen, the Great Resignation making headlines. I think employees are going to be looking for obviously great organizations that they want to be part of, But
Because
as I said earlier, the
I
expectations
can
for
do
good
by
tools and
webinar.
products are going to be critical. Everyone can just mute themselves. I think there's some background noise there. Excellent. And this was a topic that we were, ramping up for prior to the latest Omicron variant, but considerations for the return of the office. What is that going to look like? Hybrid work, 100% return to the office. That varies immensely based on the type of work people are doing, the organizations themselves, as well as simply the geography of where we're located. And finally, I'm going to close out the presentation by just talking about some of the programs that we can offer if you're looking for additional support. Many organizations that I've spoken to are still, sorting through what this is going to look like long term. And so even if you don't have anything in place currently, I'll offer some suggestions that you can get started with, even in very minimal capacities, and see where that takes you. I think I've included this slide in almost every presentation I've done over the last 10 years, but I think it's important to know what we're talking about when we define ergonomics. It's a term that gets used a lot for a variety of products. I have 2 young kids. I think every toy or product we've purchased is ergonomic baby to some degree. But when we're looking at the office and the workstation, we really want to be mindful of fitting the task to the worker. And that may seem obvious, but when you look across the organization and people are of different heights and different statures, we want to be able to provide equipment that is adjustable to fit a large portion of the population in order to reduce any potential discomfort. So the new normal, the next normal, all these terms that I'm sure we're sick of hearing about, but no surprise to anybody, millions of workers are now working from home. That's again changed and pivoted in the last month or so with this new variant. But I do think that hybrid work was going to happen anyways. This has essentially sped up that process. And people have realized through things like technology and reduced commute times that while we still are going to be in the office, possibly a large portion of the time, there still may be situations where 1 or 2 days a week, we find ourselves working at home to maximize our productivity. And so what does that mean? If we're going to continue to work at home in some capacity, we want to ensure that we have the proper tools. And as many of you can likely attest to, I know myself, I can for sure, depending on where you're working in the home, you may not have the appropriate equipment to accommodate your work that you're trying to complete. Okay, this has led directly to many areas of discomfort and injury. And a few things to consider here are employees as a general whole are not likely to make informed decisions about what they need to be purchasing. And this was evident early on in the pandemic when they were possibly given a stipend. Go and buy equipment for your home office. And if you go online to search for these items, you can easily become overwhelmed. And so being able to narrow that focus and understand which products you should be focused on, as well as being trained on how to adjust that equipment, is something that's going to be very critical. If we take a very, very quick dive into some postural issues that are evident when we work at home. If you find someone working at a table with a laptop, all of these risk factors are evident and can lead to a significant amount of discomfort for the average employee. A very quick, and we'll call it MacGyver solution, would be something that looks like this, all right? Raising your laptop with some books, possibly putting a box under your feet. But we both know that as a long-term solution, it's likely not going to be, sufficient. That box is likely going to wear down. From an aesthetic standpoint, you likely don't want cookbooks under your laptop all day, but very short term, this is something that people are doing. So why should we be investing in these tools? The root cause of a lot of these issues really comes down to the height of a table or a desk, and that the average desk is 29.5 inches, which correlates to the seated elbow height height of a 6'4" male. It's about 2% of the population. So it's no surprise that so many of us are struggling to get comfortable when it's really the height of the desk that is causing a lot of those challenges. To give you some perspective here, the average elbow height seated of a 5-foot female is about 22 inches. So that's a significant gap that needs to be overcome. And while a keyboard support can likely remedy that in the office, for many people at home, I've yet to come across somebody that wants to drill a keyboard support to the underside of their dining room table. And so being able to possibly raise your chair higher and utilize something like a footrest can be a work from home solution. Looking at this from a bad, better, best standpoint, if we go from left to right here, again, some slight improvements with that middle photo. And then really on the right-hand side, having some robust ergonomic tools to support you, especially if you're going to be doing this for the foreseeable future. We want to make this almost like an investment in our body, right? Ensuring that we have the equipment to do the job we need to do without the risk of discomfort. When we look at a PC setup, very similar. As you can see here, adding something like a monitor arm can go a long way to increasing the space on your workstation, especially at home if we maybe are working on smaller desks and we don't have as much room for paper and documents. A monitor arm can really clear up that desk and go a long way. And finally, the most common question I typically get: sit stand, and why is this important? Many people at home, because of their discomfort from sitting, have resorted to standing more often, and people have gotten very, very creative. As Tim mentioned, these are real photos that I have encountered. These are not made up or staged. And I think the focus here is that while standing is good, we need to understand what the true benefits are, because in these scenarios that you're looking at right now, yes, you're standing, but you're actually developing a number of other risk factors based on the location of your equipment. And in reality, we don't need to be standing all day. One of the biggest misconceptions I think people have come to me with is that they want to stand all day long, when in reality, 8 minutes every half hour is all we need to be standing, and the focus is on movement. So having something like a height adjustable desk needs to be easy to transition from a seated position to a standing position throughout the day, as the true benefit comes from that movement and being in that static position for long periods of time. Okay. People who don't have the luxury of these workstations right now, I like to tell them, be proactive about it. Set a timer on your phone or a reminder in your calendar to get up and move, every 20 or 30 minutes. Because you'll find once you're sitting for 30 or 40 minutes at a time, that's where that discomfort really starts to set in, and vice versa. If you're standing for too long, you'll notice that you start to shift your weight or lean onto the desk. And that's really your body's way of asking you, to sit back down in the chair that it was designed for. Another quick topic I will touch on here is lighting. And in the office, something that we encountered a lot is that there's a lot of overhead lighting. In fact, oftentimes too much overhead lighting. And that can relate to things such as eye strain, headaches, and migraines, but we don't often think about it. Moving towards a home environment, potentially now you may have realized that the benefit of natural light, being closer to some windows, can really help. And in fact, reducing overhead lighting, but implementing something like a lamp or a task light pictured here can be quite helpful. As long as your light is positioned below your eye level, I think that's a really great way to reduce eye strain and target the light where it should be focused on your paper documents. All right, just checking the chat here to see if there's any questions that have come in. Just a few comments, okay.
Yeah.
All right, so as we think about returning to the office, hopefully sooner than later. I know that's definitely something that I'm hoping for. A few things that not only I've heard from clients, but I want to share to get some, I guess, feedback from you is what do we need to consider in terms of capacity? Are we going to be returning with 100% of the workforce every day? And if not, unassigned seating or hotel workstations is something I'm hearing more about, so that if I'm in the office 3 days a week and my counterpart is in the office 2 days a week, maybe we're sharing a desk. And so in that scenario, we need to be able to have a lot of adjustability. If we're of different statures, a keyboard support, a height adjustable desk, a monitor arm, all of these things can be adjusted in a matter of minutes, so that when I arrive in the office in the morning, I can make a few quick changes and I'm ready to start my day.
Hey, Josh, one thing too to like to point out as far as in this picture, if you look one at the monitor arm, obviously it's a Humanscale monitor, that you do have the docking station up underneath. So it frees up a lot of the real estate, because the spaces are getting a lot smaller as far as different areas. But two, you also don't have to worry about bending over, screeching or whatever as far as that. You don't really need too much actual plug-in. Most all of us, the stuff that we're putting in now are either USB-Cs or USB ports or whatever. The other thing to remind people about is, we quickly forget about keyboards. But keyboards really are one of the biggest strains, or the positioning of the keyboard. One, if it's up on the desk, it's taking up real estate. Two, if it is on that desk, and you have it a certain height, it might create too much tension in the neck and the back. And that's really, really bad. Plus, as far as you might be going into a carpal tunnel by having it, pitching your wrist too much. The other thing I like to point out is that I know everybody thinks that, oh my gosh, we have all these windows and everything else. And of course, right now the sun's shining in brightly here, which it hasn't done for I can't tell you how long here in Columbus. But we have enough light, with all the windows. Well, one, we forget that we live in the territory that we live in. Two, you got to remember, old farts like me, we're having a lot of problem as far as seeing things, and we do need that light at that area, so that way we can sit there and actually read stuff and not strain as much. So, and all of those two are, Humanscale. And the other thing about lights is too many times you see some of these lights and they're an inferior quality as far as the LED bulb. And sometimes they can blink too much, and that can cause real issues.
For sure.
So we use a quality light. Just want to point out.
No, all excellent points, Tim. And I think going back to the docking station, you mentioned the M Connect at the bottom there. One thing we're seeing is what we call BYOD, or bring your own device. With organizations, especially in hybrid now, a lot of people have been hired during the pandemic and are just using their own personal laptop. So if they're coming into the office, the great thing about the M Connect is it's a universal docking station, meaning it can connect, as you said, through USB-C to any laptop, and it frees up that desk space. So rather than having to source, an HP docking station or a Samsung docking station, it really doesn't matter. So it future-proofs the dock. You don't have to be buying a new one every time you refresh your laptops. And again, going back to the space, it really does free up a lot of room for you. That all to say that, sharing workstations, hybrid work, all of this, I think, is moving together. And so the more adjustability you can put into the workstation, the better, but it doesn't have to be ugly, right? A lot of people think ergonomic tools take away from the aesthetic. I think it can be further from the truth. If you're purchasing, as you said, high quality, high productive products, they really can look good and blend seamlessly into the workstation and the aesthetic.
And they don't have to be high priced either, because we're not super high priced. So, we're very cost effective.
There you go. That's right. All right. Making sure I don't take up too much time here, but something I wanted to touch on was ErgoIQ. This is a cloud-based platform that we have developed in-house at Humanscale. We launched this about 2.5, 3 years ago. So it was in place just before the pandemic, but we've really seen it take off due to the nature of homework and hybrid work trying to get people comfortable in a variety of environments. And this has evolved over the last 2 years. We've added components to it. And it's something that can be purchased a la carte. So if you're looking for a piece of this to add to your current program, more than happy to have a conversation with you following the call today. But very briefly, to highlight each of these, ErgoIQ Home is a product recommendation tool. As I alluded to earlier, if you've been given a stipend or you're providing your employees with X amount of dollars, make sure they're purchasing the right equipment, because I've seen, that complete opposite scenario where people have been given money and they go and buy a new lawnmower or they buy a new pair of jeans, right? That's not what the
Or a nicer dining chair.
Right, exactly. So as almost a mechanism to control what they're purchasing and ensuring that the chair is of high quality and it fits the ergonomic standards, this is a tool where they can go through some questions and it can generate some recommended products that you would be able to curate and upload to the system, right? Now, once they get those products, ErgoIQ Fit comes into play, allowing employees to go through a customized self-assessment, entering what equipment they're using, and then taking them step by step through the adjustments they need to make to get comfortable. Following a self-assessment, if they want to talk to somebody, ErgoIQ Live is their opportunity to book a 30-minute one-on-one consultation with myself or one of my colleagues, just to address any outstanding questions they may have regarding their setup. ErgoIQ Learn, it can be a live webinar if you're looking for something for your group, something like this, where it's Ergo 101. It can be a recorded video, or we now have an e-learn module that you can upload to your learning management system and have employees complete that way. Okay. With that, just a couple case studies to show you how this can work with some of our existing clients. Whether you have a program in place already that requires potentially a doctor's note, maybe an in-house team that does some of these assessments, you can plug these different elements of ErgoIQ into your existing system to make it a little bit simpler and ensure everything is housed in the cloud, so that if you have multiple locations, those necessary to access it can do so whenever they need to. Another scenario here where they've been doing a webinar, then a self-assessment, and then a consultation. There are endless variable solutions here. So whatever fits your organization's needs best, we can explore what that looks like. And another one here. Okay, but ensuring we save some time for questions. I'm going to wrap up there, Tim and Amber, and I'll turn it back over to you if you wanted to make any comments or open it up to the group.
I have a question, Josh. So you gave wonderful examples of how you can improve your workspace at home, but it might be hard to remember all that. Is there an easy PDF or guide that you have available on the Humanscale website someone could refer to?
Yeah, great question, Amber. If you go on to the Humanscale website under the consulting tab, there's a variety of resources there. And if that doesn't satisfy what the people are looking for, as I said, more than happy to answer any emails and provide any additional resources that may support the group.
Does anybody else have any questions or comments? Because before everybody goes, we do want to draw for the world share that we're giving away. And you have to be present to win. So, any questions, any comments?
I'll say, I bet a lot of you can relate to it, that when we had to start working from home, I guess almost 2 years ago now, which is insane. I am luckily enough, I had a space, I had a desk where I could work, and I had this beautiful French provincial chair set up at this desk that I never used or sat at, Now it's working from home, and I had a chance to actually sit in it and work in this antique chair at the desk. And it had to be not even 2 days, and I was crooked and crippled at the end of it. And I was I can't do this. And I went into Humanscale and just took my tools off my desk, took a keyboard tray, which I never thought that a keyboard tray would change my life as much as it did. But I was in such a better mood and got so much more done when I had the right tools and, was working comfortably. So I feel like a lot of people can relate. for those of you who are working at home at the dining table, or in your French provincial Louis XVI chair that we all have hanging around.
Yes, definitely.
Thank you, somebody. There we go. Well, Josh, that was really informative, and it's funny to see the images of like people with the books stacked up, their laptops on top of books. It's cool to see that there are ways just to rearrange your work surface at home with things that we all have to make things a little bit more better, even with like the box under the feet, for a chair that's not adjustable, like a dining chair. If it's too tall, you can't move it up or down, and you want your feet supported, it's like put a box underneath. Like who knew, or stack the books up for your laptop to raise it up so you're not crunched over like that. So those were some really good, helpful tips that hopefully people can utilize and take away and look around their space and see what changes they can make just by embracing some of the tools and things they have at home.
For sure. No, it doesn't. Yeah, like you said, Pasquale, I just kind of touched the surface, I think, on solutions there. But if that gets people thinking, even making small changes to start, I think it's a great place to begin.
All right, let's draw for that.
Cut to the chase here, right?
Taylor Kincaid. Is Taylor, I saw Taylor was on, so.
You had to put your camera on so we can clap for you and see your smile, Taylor.
I know he was on.
I am here.
There you go.
Oh, congratulations.
Congratulations, Taylor.
Thank you. Great presentation. Thank you.
Pete will get with you, and when it comes in, and we'll get it up to you.
The world one chair. from-
Congrats,
brother.
Thank you so much.
My seating at home. I'm in one of the wooden uncomfortable chairs, so I'm excited.
All right.
You know the drill then. You got the back problems, right?
Yeah, I've got my Humanscale keyboard tray at home too, so it's coming together.
There you go. One step at a time here. We'll have to
Yeah.
have another presentation with another giveaway. So with a light or something
Yeah,
in the
right.
future, maybe next month. Right.
Well, if there's nothing else, thank you, everybody, for coming, and we greatly appreciate it. Pasquale and Josh, thank you so much. Josh, great presentation.
Yes,
everyone.
thanks, everybody. We appreciate it.
Have a great day.
Thank you for joining.